When the cold winds of winter begin to blow, the Amish know it's time to prepare for the months ahead. One of the most important tasks for these hardworking families is preserving meat to last through the long winter. But how do they do it without modern refrigeration or freezing methods? Today, we'll take a closer look at the time-honored techniques the Amish use to keep their meat fresh and delicious all winter long. When the cold winds of winter begin to blow, the Amish know it's time to prepare for the months ahead. One of the most important tasks for these hardworking families is preserving meat to last through the long winter. But how do they do it without modern refrigeration or freezing methods? Today, we'll take a closer look at the time-honored techniques the Amish use to keep their meat fresh and delicious all winter long. The first step in Amish meat preservation starts with the butchering process. Typically, pigs, cows, or chickens are slaughtered in the late fall, just before the cold weather settles in. The chilly air is the Amish farmers' natural refrigeration, making it the perfect time to begin storing large amounts of meat. Once the animals are butchered, it's time for preparation. Salt is one of the most crucial ingredients in the preservation process. Amish families generously coat the meat in salt to draw out moisture, which helps prevent bacterial growth. This process is called curing. The Amish also use a technique known as dry curing. After salting, the meat is allowed to sit for several days or weeks, depending on the cut, as it absorbs the salt and other spices. This ensures the meat is thoroughly preserved and ready to store. After curing, the meat is hung in a cool, dry place, often in a smokehouse or a well-ventilated barn. The dry, cool air helps to further preserve the meat while allowing it to dry out over time. This method creates jerky or dried meats that are perfect for long-term storage. Another method the Amish use is smoking their meat. After the initial curing, the meat is hung in a smokehouse where it's slowly smoked over a fire made from hardwood. The smoke acts as both a preservative and a flavor enhancer, giving the meat a distinct taste while also keeping it safe from spoilage. Smoked meats, such as ham and bacon, are staples in the Amish diet throughout the winter months. These cuts can last for months when stored properly, providing a vital source of protein during the cold, snowy season. For longer storage, the Amish also rely on canning. After the meat is prepared, it's packed tightly into jars and sealed with a special lid before being placed in boiling water for a set period. This process, known as pressure canning, ensures the meat remains sealed and preserved for months without the need for refrigeration. Thanks to these traditional techniques, Amish families have a reliable food supply that carries them through the winter. The methods of curing, smoking, and canning not only preserve the meat, but also infuse it with flavors that are deeply tied to the Amish way of life. In a world full of modern conveniences, the Amish still rely on age-old traditions to provide for their families. Whether it's the simple, earthy flavors of cured bacon or the smoky richness of a ham, the way they preserve meat for the winter is a testament to their resourcefulness and commitment to a sustainable, self-sufficient lifestyle. For the Amish, the winter months aren't just a time of cold and darkness, they're a season of self-reliance and community. And preserving meat for the winter is just one of the many ways they keep their traditions alive. In today's world, most of us rely on refrigerators and freezers to store our food. But for the Amish, modern technology is not an option. They've held onto traditional methods passed down through generations. One of the most important tasks as the colder months approach is preserving meat without the help of any modern appliances. In this video, we're diving into the Amish way of preserving meat, using techniques that have stood the test of time for centuries. The first step in the Amish process of preserving meat begins with butchering. In the late fall, as the temperatures drop, Amish families slaughter their livestock, pigs, cattle, and chickens, ensuring they have enough food to last through the winter months. The butchering process itself is carefully planned, as the Amish aim to use every part of the animal. Butchering takes place when the air is cool, which helps preserve the meat naturally. Without the aid of refrigeration, timing is key. Once the animal is butchered, the work of preserving begins. The Amish rely on three main methods: curing, smoking, and drying. All of these methods require no electricity, just time, skill, and natural elements. Let's start with curing. Curing is one of the oldest methods used by the Amish to preserve meat. Salt is generously rubbed into every surface of the meat, drawing out moisture and creating an environment that inhibits bacterial growth. The Amish often add other spices for flavor, such as pepper, sugar, and even garlic. The meat sits in the salt for several days, allowing it to absorb all the seasonings. This process not only preserves the meat, but enhances its flavor, creating rich, savory cuts that will last for months. Next, the Amish use smoking as another preservation method. After curing, the meat is placed in a smokehouse, where it's hung on racks and exposed to smoke from burning hardwood, such as oak or hickory. The smoke serves two purposes. It helps preserve the meat by creating a barrier against bacteria and insects, and it imparts a unique smoky flavor that's beloved in Amish kitchens. Smoking also helps the meat dry out, further extending its shelf life. Smoked meats, like bacon and ham, are essential staples in Amish winter meals. They are perfect for hearty soups, stews, and breakfast dishes that will feed a family throughout the cold months. Another key technique the Amish use is drying. Once the meat has been cured and sometimes smoked, it is hung in cool, dry places, often in barns or dedicated drying rooms. The dry air allows the meat to slowly dehydrate over time, further preserving it for months. Drying creates jerky and other dried meats that can be easily stored in airtight containers. This method not only preserves the meat, but gives it a distinct texture and flavor that is perfect for snacking or adding to meals during the winter. Thanks to curing, smoking, and drying, the Amish are able to stockpile enough meat to last through the harshest of winters. Their methods ensure that the meat stays safe, flavorful, and nutrient-rich, providing a reliable food source during times when fresh food is scarce. While modern conveniences like refrigerators and freezers may not be a part of Amish life, they've mastered the art of preserving food using techniques that rely on the natural elements: air, salt, and smoke. The Amish way of preserving meat without modern technology is a testament to their resourcefulness, resilience, and connection to the land. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest methods are the most effective. Imagine living in a world where the simplicity of life is a choice, not a necessity. Where the rhythms of nature, family, and hard work shape every single day. Welcome to the Amish way of life. But there's something they do, something that connects them to their past, to their ancestors, that might just surprise you. How do the Amish keep their meat fresh all winter long, in a time before refrigeration and electricity? It's not magic or high-tech gadgets. It's the result of centuries-old traditions, passed down from generation to generation. They've mastered the art of preserving meat in ways that not only keep it fresh, but give it a taste and quality that's hard to find anywhere else. The secret lies in a combination of techniques. One of the most essential methods is smoking. The Amish use wood from local trees: apple, cherry, hickory, each offering its own unique flavor. They hang their meats in smokehouses, where they are slowly cured and infused with a rich, smoky essence that preserves them for months. But it doesn't stop there. Preservation starts the moment the meat is harvested. The Amish use salt and other natural spices to rub the meat down, drawing out moisture and preventing bacteria from taking hold. It's a process that requires patience, precision, and a deep connection to the land. And then there's canning. Imagine opening a jar of perfectly preserved meat, harvested in the fall, and knowing it will taste just as fresh months later. The Amish have perfected the art of canning, preserving meats by sealing them in glass jars and cooking them at high temperatures to kill bacteria and lock in flavor. It's a ritual, a way of connecting to the land, to the family, and to the past. These practices ensure that even when the cold winds of winter blow, the Amish can still enjoy the fruits of their labor. In a world that's constantly moving, where convenience often trumps quality, the Amish remind us that there's beauty in slowing down, in taking the time to preserve, to savor, to pass down wisdom from one generation to the next. So next time you sit down to a meal, think of the simple ways the Amish keep their food fresh. It's a way of life that's about more than just preserving meat. It's about preserving tradition, love, and the timeless connection between the land and those who respect it. Thank you for joining us in this peaceful journey into the heart of Amish tradition. In the heart of the Amish community, nestled deep in the quiet countryside, one of these traditions endures: old-fashioned meat preservation. It's a practice passed down through generations, a vital art that ensures their family can survive the harshest winters. When the cold winds begin to blow and the snow blankets the earth, the Amish know that the meat they've cured by hand will nourish them through months of isolation. But this isn't just about survival. It's about a deep connection to the land, to the rhythms of nature. There's a peace in knowing exactly where your food comes from and how it was prepared. Here, nothing is rushed. Every step, from slaughtering to curing, is a sacred ritual, a practice of respect for the animals and the land that sustains them. Salt, the ancient preservative, a key element in the Amish way. But it's not just any salt. It's chosen for its purity, for the role it plays in sealing the meat and ensuring that it remains safe, nourishing, and full of flavor. Once the meat is carefully salted and hung to dry, the Amish rely on the coolness of the barn or root cellar. The air in these spaces is just right, never too warm, never too cold, perfect for transforming the meat into something that will last, something that will feed them through the hardest of times. At the table, the fruits of their labor are shared, not just as food, but as a story. A story of family, of tradition, of an unbroken connection to the land and the seasons. The meat they've preserved isn't just about sustenance. It's about heritage, about honoring the past and ensuring the future. In today's world, where technology often takes precedence, the Amish remind us that there's beauty in the old ways. In the quiet of a root cellar, in the stillness of the barn, and in the humble process of meat preservation, we are reminded of the value of patience, care, and the timeless connection between humanity and the land. In these small, simple acts of preservation, the Amish are keeping something much larger alive. They are preserving not just food, but a way of life, a way of living in harmony with the world around us. Perhaps, in the midst of our busy lives, we too can find a moment to slow down, to appreciate the old ways, and to remember that the simplest things are often the most meaningful. There's something sacred about the old ways, the methods passed down through generations, when every step mattered and every action had a purpose. In the heart of Amish country, behind the barn doors, a time-honored practice continues to this day. Here, the act of preserving meat is more than just about survival. It's a dance between patience and respect. The process begins with salt, simple, yet so essential. Each grain of salt, carefully rubbed into the meat, helps seal in the flavors and protect it from the harsh winter ahead. For the Amish, this isn't just a chore, it's a ritual, a quiet, humble labor that connects them to the earth, to their ancestors, and to the future. The barn, with its low wooden beams and cool air, is more than just a storage space. It's a place of transformation. Hanging the meat is a slow, deliberate act. The right temperature, the right air, and the right time. It's in these moments of stillness that the meat begins to change, taking on flavors, textures, and the very essence of the seasons. This is not a hurried process. It's something sacred, something that requires a deep trust in nature and in the tradition that's been passed down, generation after generation. The barn doors, once closed to the world, now open to the quiet passage of time. Behind these doors, the Amish preserve not just food, but a way of life, a connection to the past, and a promise for the future. And when winter comes, when the snow blankets the earth outside, these simple preserved meals become the heart of the family table. It's not just the meat that's shared, it's the stories, the memories, the love that's been carefully stored in every jar, every slice. In these moments, behind the barn doors, the Amish remind us of something precious, the value of patience, the beauty of simplicity, and the unbroken bond between the land and the people. Every bite tells a story of hard work, dedication, and love. As the world around us rushes forward, we can find solace in the quiet traditions that endure. Behind the barn doors, where time moves slowly and the seasons are cherished, the Amish preserve more than just meat. They preserve the very essence of what it means to live in harmony with the earth. In the stillness, we remember that the most meaningful things in life often take the longest to preserve. And perhaps, in the stillness of our own lives, we can find a little of that peace too. In a world that races forward, there's something deeply comforting in the quiet rhythm of the past. Behind the humble doors of an Amish barn, a secret has been passed down through generations, a sacred art that sustains not just bodies, but souls. The art of meat preservation is no simple task. It's a practice steeped in history, rooted in survival, and built upon patience. For the Amish, it's not just about keeping food for the winter. It's about ensuring that when the cold winds blow, they have enough to sustain their families, enough to carry them through the toughest months. Salt, the essence of preservation. A small handful, but its power to protect life is immeasurable. The Amish use it with purpose, layering it into the meat, ensuring that every inch is covered, every surface sealed. The salt does more than preserve. It honors the life of the animal, ensuring that it's treated with respect. Once salted, the meat is carefully hung in the barn, each cut swaying gently in the cool, steady breeze. It's here, in this sacred space, that time does its work. The air, perfectly chilled yet never too cold, slowly draws out the moisture, turning fresh meat into something that will last long after the winter's first snow. Behind these barn doors, a timeless secret is preserved, one that not only helps feed a family, but also teaches something essential. The Amish know that in these simple, slow acts of preservation, there is power. Power in knowing where your food comes from, power in trusting the earth, and power in the patience it takes to ensure that life, even in winter, continues to nourish and sustain. As the snow begins to fall and the world outside grows cold and quiet, the family gathers at the table. The meat, tender and full of flavor, is shared not just as food, but as a story of hard work, sacrifice, and love. Of generations before them, and of the hope that each slice of meat will feed another generation to come. In every meal, in every bite, there's a reminder of what it means to live with purpose, to prepare, to preserve, and to honor the seasons. The Amish know that survival isn't just about having enough. It's about having enough to share, to give, and to pass along to those you love. Behind the barn doors, where the art of meat preservation is a sacred tradition, the Amish have unlocked a deeper secret. It's not just about surviving the winter, it's about embracing life in its purest form, respecting the land, trusting the process, and living with gratitude for the harvest. In a world that often feels hurried and chaotic, the Amish show us that there is wisdom in slowing down, that sometimes the greatest secrets of survival aren't hidden in technology or innovation, but in the simple acts of care, patience, and love. In a world where time often slips through our fingers, there are places where it seems to slow down, where the simple rituals of life carry with them not just necessity, but tradition. And nowhere is this more true than in the Amish way of preserving meat for the winter. It begins with the salt. Not just any salt, but a preservative as old as time itself. Simple, yet powerful. Every grain, carefully rubbed into the meat, is a reminder of the deep connection between the Amish and the earth. A way of honoring the land, the animals, and the generations who have come before them. The barn becomes a sacred place in the months leading up to winter. It's here, in this quiet space, where time does its work. The meats, now covered in salt and left to cure, hang gently, swaying in the cool breeze. Every piece is a promise, one that will nourish the family when the world outside is blanketed in snow and silence. Through the months, the meat changes, transforming from fresh to preserved. The salt draws out the moisture, locking in the flavor, and turning what was once a mere cut of meat into something that will last through the coldest, darkest days of winter. When winter arrives and the winds begin to howl outside, the fruits of this slow, thoughtful labor are shared around the family table. the preserved meat, tender, full of flavor, and rich with the essence of the seasons, becomes not just food, but a story of survival, of hard work, and of love passed down through generations. Every slice of meat carries with it the spirit of those who have come before, the ancestors who first discovered the art of preserving food, of living in harmony with the land. And now, these traditions are passed on, from one generation to the next, around the table, in the stories they share, and in the meals they prepare together. The Amish have mastered the art of living with the seasons. In their careful preservation of meat, they are not just preparing for winter, they are honoring life in its most sacred form. They are teaching us that true survival isn't just about having enough to eat. It's about understanding where our food comes from, how it's prepared, and the deep respect we owe to those who provide it. As winter takes hold and the world quiets, the Amish stand as a reminder that sometimes the greatest rewards come from patience, from honoring the old ways, and from living in harmony with nature. In a world that demands more and more from us, there is wisdom in their simplicity. In the stillness of the barn, behind the quiet door, the Amish preserve not just meat, but the very essence of what it means to live in balance with the land, with the seasons, and with each other. When the first chill of winter settles into the air, life on the Amish farm shifts in quiet anticipation. For the Amish, winter is more than just a season. It's a time to reflect, to prepare, and to ensure that the land they've worked so hard to nurture will continue to provide, even through the coldest months. It all begins with the hands that carefully prepare the meat, ensuring each piece is properly salted, each cut treated with the same respect and care that the Amish have passed down through generations. Salt is the guardian of the meat, its preservation both a science and an art that has kept families fed through the harshest winters. Behind the barn doors, the magic happens. The meat hangs in the cool, steady air, slowly curing, transforming into something that will sustain the family for months to come. There's an art to this preservation, a patience that matches the seasons themselves. The Amish understand that winter is not something to be feared, but something to be prepared for, with every step taken with intention, with care. Each piece of meat is checked, turned, and adjusted. The air in the barn, never too hot, never too cold, is just right for drying and curing. The Amish know that every small detail matters. It's not just about having enough food, it's about having food that is safe, that is nourishing, and that is full of the love and care with which it was prepared. When winter arrives, the Amish come together, their table a reflection of the harvest and the careful preparation that has taken place. The cured meats are not just sustenance. They are the story of the land, the seasons, and the families who have worked together to preserve the best of what nature has provided. Each bite is a taste of home, a taste of the hard work, and a testament to the simple joys that come from the fruits of their labor. As the meal is shared, it's more than just food. It's a bond of tradition, of family, of a life lived in harmony with the earth. The Amish know that the most meaningful meals are the ones that have a story, and each slice of preserved meat is part of that story, a story that will be passed down, one generation to the next. Through the winter, when the world outside is still and cold, the Amish remain connected to the earth, to the rhythms of nature. They know that the effort they put into preserving meat and preparing for the harsh season ahead is an act of faith, faith that the land will provide, faith in the work they've done, and faith in the future they are building for their children. In a world that moves faster and faster, the Amish remind us that sometimes the greatest gift is the time we take to prepare, to slow down, to care deeply, and to ensure that when the cold winds blow, we have enough to sustain us, not just in body, but in spirit as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel, Frugal Focus,